Have you ever noticed how tight your shoulders get when life doesn't go the way you planned? That silent clench in the jaw, the mind racing hours or years into a future that hasn't even arrived? We think if we plan harder, worry louder, or hold on tighter, we'll finally feel safe. But what if the opposite is true? What if the moment you loosen your grip, a different kind of freedom appears? In Buddhism, especially in modern Zen-inspired practice, we talk about the inner knots that form when we try to control what is, by nature, always changing. Control feels like armor, but most days it's more like a shadow cage, made of thoughts, not steel, yet it keeps us pacing in circles inside a future that hasn't happened. Anxiety says, if I rehearse every disaster, I can prevent it. Reality says, you're missing today while defending tomorrow. Let's try something. Gently close your hand into a fist. Imagine you're gripping the outcomes of your health, your relationships, your career. Hold tighter. Notice tension in the arm, the breath. Now slowly open the hand, feel the space return. This is the shift we explore in practice, not giving up responsibility, but releasing the illusion that fear can control what love, patience, or wise action cannot. When we stop wrestling the river, we begin to feel its current support us. In my own life, the biggest breakthroughs didn't arrive when I finally figured it all out, but when I got honest about what I couldn't force. A project that only moved after I stopped micromanaging. A relationship that softened when I listened instead of defended. A health scare that taught me to live the day I actually had, today, instead of bargaining with 1,000 imagined tomorrows. Zen teachers sometimes say, let the mud settle. When the water in a pond is stirred, everything looks cloudy. Sit still and clarity returns on its own. Anxiety is constant stirring. Letting go is letting be. From that stillness, choices get clearer. A kinder word, a healthier meal, a courageous phone call. Peace isn't passive, it's powerful, because it frees energy that worry once trapped. You might be thinking, okay, but how do I let go? I have bills, kids, aging parents. I can't just float down a mountain stream. Fair. Letting go doesn't mean doing nothing. It means acting wisely without strangling the result. Plant the seed, water it, give it sunlight, but don't dig it up every hour to see if it's growing. That's worry gardening, and we've all done it. Here's a quick practice you can try right now. No cushion, no incense needed. Exhale fully, let the breath empty. Inhale gently and silently say, this moment. Exhale and say, I release what I can't control. Repeat 3 breaths. Notice the body softening even a little. That softening is where freedom begins. In this video, we'll go deeper with 8 timeless Buddhist lessons to help you loosen anxiety, trust life more, and come home to the calm that's been waiting underneath all that mental noise. These aren't abstract teachings from a distant monastery. They're everyday kitchen table wisdom, how you talk to yourself when fear shows up, how you respond when plans collapse, how you plant seeds of trust in uncertain seasons. So before we begin, ask yourself, what am I gripping right now? A deadline? Someone's approval? A fear about the future? Hold it in awareness. You don't have to drop it yet, just see it. Because everything we can see clearly, we can soften toward, and everything we soften toward begins to change. Take one more breath with me. Open the hand. Let the river move. Let life meet you halfway. Ready? Let's explore Lesson 1. Lesson 1. Fear is a seed. Have you ever thought of fear not just as an emotion, but as a seed? According to Buddhist wisdom, your mind is like a garden. Every thought, every feeling you hold, especially fear, is a seed that takes root. And whatever seed you water the most, that's what grows. Fear doesn't just affect how you feel, it shapes how you act, how you speak, and even what kind of life you end up living. Think about it. Maybe you feared failure before a big meeting, and that fear made you stumble, lose confidence, and miss the opportunity. Or perhaps you were afraid of being abandoned, so you clung too tightly in a relationship, and in doing so, pushed the other person away. That's the power of fear when it's left to grow unchecked. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The mind is incredibly fertile. If you don't consciously plant peace and trust, fear will grow by default, like weeds in an untended garden. And fear is clever. It disguises itself as preparation, responsibility, or care. But really, it drains your energy and keeps you stuck in stories that haven't even happened. So what do? First, pause, breathe. Gently ask yourself, is this thought bringing me peace or feeding my fear? That single question is an act of awareness, and awareness is the beginning of freedom. Because when you see fear clearly, it starts to lose its grip. One simple practice: place your hand on your heart. As you breathe in, say silently, I see you, fear. As you breathe out, you are not all of me. Repeat this 3 times. Just be there with it, like a kind guardian sitting beside a frightened child. You don't need to fight fear. You just need to stop nourishing it. Start planting something else: a breath of calm, a seed of trust, a moment of stillness. Because in the garden of your life, you have the power to choose what grows. So if fear is a seed, what happens when we stop feeding it? In the next lesson, we'll explore a surprising truth: that real strength isn't found in control, but in the gentle art of letting go. Stick around. This one might just change how you face life. Lesson 2. Peace only lives where your feet are. Have you ever noticed this? Most of the things we fear aren't actually happening right now. They're happening in our minds as predictions, projections, and worst-case scenarios. That's the strange thing about anxiety. It rarely lives in the present. It lives in the future, in a place we haven't arrived at yet, but somehow keep visiting in our imagination. Buddhist wisdom teaches us, peace doesn't live in the future. It lives where your feet are, right here, right now. And yet, the mind is constantly dragging us away. It whispers, what if you fail? What if they leave? What if everything falls apart? And so, while our body is sitting still, our spirit is running miles ahead, exhausted by futures that haven't even happened. That's why meditation is so powerful. It's not about escaping. It's about returning. Returning to this breath, this moment, this safe, sacred now. When you come back to the present, you'll notice something profound. Right now, in this exact moment, you are okay. Your heart is beating. You are breathing. Nothing is on fire. It's only when your mind leaves this place that panic begins. I once read this line: the present moment is never unbearable. It's only the story you tell about it that is. And it stayed with me. Because when I pause and truly return to now, I realize I can handle this. Not tomorrow, not forever, just this one breath. So here's a general practice. The next time you feel overwhelmed, pause and ask yourself, where are my feet? Look down, feel them on the ground. Let your awareness pour into your souls, into the floor, into the earth. This simple act pulls you back from the cliff of worry and roots you in the one place where peace is always possible, the present. Life isn't asking you to figure out the whole future. It's simply inviting you to be here, fully, for this one step. And the next. Because peace is not a destination you arrive at. It's a presence you return to. Lesson 3. The strength of an open hand. We live in a world that praises control. Be in charge, make a plan, hold it all together. From school to work to relationships, we're taught that the more we control, the more secure we'll feel. But what if that's not true? What if true strength doesn't come from the tight grip, but from the soft release? Buddhism teaches something radical. Letting go is not weakness. It's not giving up. It's a deep, quiet trust in karma, in impermanence, and in the natural flow of life. Imagine holding water in your hand. If you clutch your fist tightly, it slips through your fingers. But if you keep your palm open, gently, the water rests there. That's how life works. The tighter you hold, the faster it escapes. But when you relax, life stays. Peace stays, love stays. Control, ironically, often creates the very suffering we're trying to avoid. We try to control people and lose connection. We try to control outcomes and lose presence. We try to control the future and lose this moment. Letting go is not the same as being passive. It's about participating in life fully without clinging to the result. It's choosing to show up, take action, and then release the outcome into the hands of the universe. It's saying, I will do my part, but I don't need to control every detail for things to be okay. There's a quiet power in that, a grounded strength that doesn't panic because it trusts that life knows what it's doing, even if we don't understand it right now. And yes, letting go can feel terrifying, especially when we've built our identity around control. But every time you open your hand, just a little, you make space for something new to enter, something more aligned, something that flows. Here's a small reflection you can try today. Think of one thing you're clinging to, a plan, a person, a fear, and ask gently, what would it feel like to soften my grip? Not let go completely, just soften. That's often how transformation begins, because the truth is, nothing real can ever be lost by letting go. What's meant for you will remain. What's not will return to the flow it came from. And in that space between control and surrender, something unexpected often begins to rise. Lesson 4, the art of stepping back so life can flow. Have you ever tried to fix something so hard that you only made it worse? There's a story I once heard about a child holding a butterfly in her hands. She wanted to keep it safe, so she cupped her palms tightly around it. But the more she squeezed, the more the butterfly struggled, until eventually it broke free and flew away. The child didn't mean harm. She just didn't know that sometimes love breathes easier when given space, just like life does. We live in a culture that teaches us to press, push, fix. If things aren't working, do more, try harder, stay in control. But Buddhist wisdom invites us to consider the opposite. What if life begins to move only when we stop trying to force it? Like a river, it doesn't need you to dig the path. It just needs you to get out of the way. When we constantly interfere, micromanaging, overthinking, clinging, we disrupt the natural rhythm of life. We create noise where there could be flow, resistance where there could be peace. Letting go isn't doing nothing. It's doing your part and then stepping back. It's trusting that there is a deeper intelligence beneath all things, one that knows when to open a door. So ask yourself today, where am I holding too tightly? A dream, a relationship, a version of how things should be? And what would happen if I gently step back, just a little? You might be surprised, because often when we stop chasing, what we've been longing for finally has space to arrive. But here's the deeper question. What if the world outside isn't what needs fixing? What if clarity begins, not from control, but from calming the storm inside? Lesson 5. Growth begins the moment you let go. There's something few people talk about. Worry doesn't just make you tired, it makes your world smaller. The more we worry, the more we shrink inside ourselves. Dreams that once felt exciting now seem out of reach. Ideas that once sparked joy now feel impossible. Fear builds walls, not around the world, but around our imagination. It keeps us safe, but stuck. In Buddhism, there's a simple truth. Letting go is not the end, it's the beginning. The moment you release fear, you create space for courage to rise. You create room for creativity to flow. You make a home where happiness can return. Imagine you're holding a bird in your hand. It's tired, but it wants to fly. If you keep your fingers closed, you may protect it from falling, but you also keep it from ever soaring. True growth, the kind that frees your spirit, comes when you loosen your grip. When you stop clinging to the stories of what if, what could go wrong, what they might think. A Zen master once said, "You carry so much on your back, but none of it is the present." We carry guilt from the past, fear of the future, and in doing so, we miss the only place we can grow, here, now. I remember meeting someone at a meditation retreat who shared a story. He had spent years trying to control every detail of his career, afraid of failure. But when he finally let go, not by quitting, but by surrendering his fear, he discovered a creativity and clarity he hadn't felt since childhood. He said, "I thought I was losing control, but really, I was finally becoming myself." Buddhist practice isn't about forcing peace, it's about removing what blocks it. Letting go is like unclogging a river. Once the debris is cleared, the flow returns on its own. So ask yourself gently, what fear have I outgrown, but am still carrying? What could shift in your life if you stopped resisting the current and allowed yourself to float? Letting go isn't weakness, it's choosing trust over tension, faith over force. And when you choose to release, life often responds with something deeper than you expected. Not just calm, but clarity. Not just relief, but a new direction. But what happens when the inner world becomes truly still? What do you begin to see when the water finally settles? Lesson 6. Trust doesn't grow where control lives. There's a quiet battle happening inside us, every single day, between the part of us that wants to trust, ceases, and the part that insists on controlling everything. We think that control will keep us safe, that if we plan enough, predict enough, hold tight enough, nothing can go wrong. But what if? Control is just fear wearing a clever disguise. Buddhist wisdom teaches that true trust is not passive. It's not whatever happens, happens. It's action with presence, but without attachment to outcome. Imagine lighting a candle in the dark. You strike the match, you protect the flame from the wind, but you don't sit there all night, cupping it with your hands, afraid it will go out. You trust the candle to burn on its own. You let it shine, without hovering, without fear. The same is true in life. You show up, you give your best, but then you must release. Because the moment you cling, you're no longer trusting, ceases. You're trying to force something that needs time, space, and faith. In Zen practice, they say, plant the seed, water it, then let it be. If you dig it up every day to check if it's growing, you disturb its roots. Likewise, when you constantly check, fix, or doubt, you disturb your peace. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up responsibility. It means trusting that your intention was enough, that life knows how to unfold, just as flowers know when to bloom. Ask yourself today, where am I holding too tightly because I'm afraid of what might happen? And can I breathe into that fear without feeding it? Trust isn't loud. It doesn't demand results or guarantees. It moves like still water, steady, present, and quietly powerful. And perhaps the real question is this: what would life feel like if I stopped standing in the way? There's still more to uncover. Seasons. So when you're ready, meet me in the next reflection. We'll walk a little deeper, together. Lesson 7. Most fears never happen. The mind is a brilliant storyteller. It weaves futures out of thin air. It turns silence into suspicion and uncertainty into disaster. Have you noticed how much of your anxiety isn't about what's happening, seasons, but about what might happen? You read a message that ends with a period instead of a smiley face, and your mind spins. Did I upset them? You feel a small pain in your chest, and suddenly you're planning for the worst. You don't hear back from someone you care about, and the story begins. They're pulling away. Something's wrong. It's my fault. Buddhist practice teaches us this vital truth. Most fears are not reality. They're rehearsals. The mind rehearses pain, loss, failure, not because it's cruel, but because it wants to protect you. But protection built on fiction only creates suffering. Zen teachers say, don't believe everything you think. Not because your thoughts are bad, but because they're often just noise, just mental weather, clouds passing through a sky that's naturally clear. Try this simple question when your fear rises. Is this happening right now, or am I imagining it? Not to judge yourself, but to gently return to presence. To separate the imagined storm from the moment you're actually living in. Here's something to remember. The body lives in the present, but the mind, it time travels. And if you're not careful, it'll drag you into a future full of shadows, while your body is simply trying to breathe in peace. A monk once shared this image. Your thoughts are like birds flying overhead. You can't stop them from coming, but you don't have to let them build a nest in your hair. You're allowed to see fear without feeding it, to acknowledge a thought without becoming it. So today, notice the stories your mind writes. Pause. Breathe. Ask, is this real or just a reflex of fear? And the more often you do that, the lighter the burden becomes. Because what's imagined doesn't need to be carried. And what isn't happening now doesn't need your energy right now. There's wisdom in watching the storm without walking into it. And that stillness, that clarity, might be the beginning of something else. Lesson 8. A calm mind changes everything. When your mind is loud, the world feels chaotic. But when your mind is calm, things begin to make sense. You've probably felt this before. Two people can walk through the same day, but one feels anxious, overwhelmed, constantly rushing, while the other moves slowly, notices beauty, breathes deeply. What's different? Not the world, the state of their inner world. Buddhist wisdom says, peace is not the absence of chaos. It's the clarity you carry into it. When your mind is agitated, even small problems feel massive. A single delay becomes a disaster. A short silence from someone becomes a sign of rejection. But when your mind is still, those same situations shrink back to their real size. You don't just react, you respond with grace. The truth is, we don't see the world as it is. We see it as we are. Your thoughts are like the lens on a camera. When they're cloudy, your view is distorted. But when the lens is clean, when the mind is settled, you begin to see things as they truly are. A Zen master once said, "First, clear the pond. Only then will the moon reflect." You don't need to fix the world to find peace. You just need to come back to yourself. Not the scattered self, but the quiet self. The one beneath all the noise. And how do we return? Start with a single breath. Inhale slowly. Feel it enter your body. Exhale gently. Feel the release. This is not escape. This is homecoming. Each breath is an invitation to realign, to soften, to see clearly again. And the more you return to stillness, the more you realize the world doesn't always have to change. Sometimes it's enough that you do. Life is not a mountain to conquer. It's a river to join. It doesn't ask you to dominate it, only to dance with it. You don't have to control every wave. You only need to trust that the current knows where it's going. Letting go is not defeat. It's an act of courage. It's saying, I no longer need to fight the flow. I choose to move with it, with faith, not fear. So today, loosen your grip. Release one small worry. Believe in what you cannot yet see. And let life meet you where you are, not where you're forcing it to be. If this message touched something inside you, if it reminded you that peace is already within reach, then don't let it end here. Subscribe to the channel to stay connected with reflections like this. Share it with someone who needs a breath of calm today. And together, let's keep walking. Not to escape the world, but to live more gently within it. Because this isn't the end. It's only the beginning of remembering. You were never separate from peace in the first place.